danger. Okay, sorry. Okay, so dams in Maryland are classified in three categories: high, significant, and low, and based on potential danger in case of dam failure. Wheaton Branch Dam is classified as a high hazard dam, which means that the dam failure would result in probable loss of life, serious property and infrastructure damage. This is the earthen dam, and earth dams are most common dams, type of dams in Maryland and in Montgomery County. So I already mentioned that we are inspecting facilities on a regular basis and maintain and perform repairs. That's pretty self-explanatory. Now I want to talk about other responsibility. Is dam monitoring. Okay, this is, I'm sorry, I just wanted to point before I go to next slide that okay, what you're looking at is Wheaton Branch Dam during spring months, I guess this year. And you're looking at the dam. This is what we call main dam, because there are also internal dam embankments, internal embankments that separate cells within a pond. But this is the large dam, and in the middle of the dam you see this depression. That is the overflow spillway that we'll be discussing in detail what we plan to do about that. And in the background you also see this riser control structure that is basically there to control the outflow from the pond. Okay, and this is another view of Wheaton Regional Pond Dam, where you see, I just wanted to point, this is a staff gauge. You may be people that live around this area and walk this dam. I have seen this before, but probably wonder what it was. So this is a staff gauge that we use to monitor during large storm events. There's also a remote monitoring station that is located close by, and this helps us monitor water levels and precipitation during storms and around during other times. So another requirement I mentioned is the emergency action plan, and this is a copy of the front page of emergency action plan. The plans are updated every year and submitted to Maryland Department of the Environment for approval. And you can see there's a date for update is May of this year, signed by DEP and by Maryland Department of Environment Dam Safety Chief. So the purpose of emergency action plan is to minimize potential for failure of the dam or minimize failure consequences, including loss of life, property damage, and environmental impacts. So this is basically a formal document, and document basically outlines a responsibility, what needed to be done, and how this emergency response must be handled, and has pre-planned actions listed in the document. So in that document, you will find this map, and this is pretty common to all emergency action plans, is evacuation map. And it lists all the properties that needed to be evacuated during emergency. This yellow line here shows the inundation area, or basically area that would be flooded should the dam fail. So all the houses within this inundation area would need to be evacuated. And there is also a list of all the properties in emergency action plan, and the total of about 100 properties downstream from the dam that would be impacted. You notice there is a group of homes here that are not being flooded, but yet they need to be evacuated because they will lose access for emergency equipment. So even these homes would need to be evacuated. But the houses that are closest to the dam probably would be a highest priority and would be evacuated one of the first by emergency responders. So high hazard dams are designed to the highest standards, obviously, and high standards for this area is probable maximum precipitation, which is equal to 27 inches of rain in 6 hours. That is hard. Sometimes it's hard to imagine this much rain in such a short period of time. And this is the reason why this high hazard dams are designed to this higher standards, because we don't want them to these dams to fail. So the definition of probable maximum precipitation, or PMP, or probable maximum flood, PMF, it's a theoretically greatest precipitation or resulting flood that is meteorologically feasible for given duration over specific drainage area at particular geographical location. So these extreme events are quite rare, but there's been some events that approached probable maximum flood throughout the history, and I have a list of some of these events. Most recent, I guess, was Hurricane Harvey in Texas, where over 60 inches of rain fell in 4 days. And this Hurricane Agnes from 1972 is considered storm of record for Maryland, and it was only 15 inches of rain in 24 hours. So PMF storm would be much larger than Hurricane Agnes, as you can see from this slide. So now just want to talk about this project and why it was selected. So in 1988, when the facility was retrofitted, part of the retrofit included construction of overflow spillway, as Doug pointed out on one of his slides. That overflow spillway was added to the dam to help pass probable maximum flood. The spillway was protected by gabions at the top. You probably noticed some cages with concrete, and some, they look like concrete, but they are really gabion baskets with stone, and they were grouted. Basically, concrete was placed over top of them to reinforce these baskets. So in 1988, this spillway was added with gabions on top and what we call Inca mat, or geotextile, on the slope of the dam. The spillway has never seen any flows, and it was designed to carry this probable maximum flood only. the 100-year is much lower than this elevation. But earlier assessment concluded that the dam could fail should the flow will reach this level and go down this slope, because this Inca mat and the gabions apparently did not provide sufficient protection. And that is concerned because with earthen dams, overtopping is most common cause of failure. And this is why DEP decided to upgrade this overflow spillway by adding overtopping protection to safely pass probable maximum storm. So the purpose of this project is to improve safety of the structure and improve public safety. As a result, improve public safety for downstream residents. So in 2019, DEP hired Bailyn consultants to work on the project design. So with that, I will turn over to Ethan with Bailyn consultants, and just wanted to remind that if you have any questions, I'm sure that you may have some questions from my presentation. Please type your questions in the chat box, or wait until the end of our presentation, where you will have an opportunity to ask your questions. And with that, I'll turn over to Ethan. Thank you.
Hear me all right?
Yep.
All right. So thanks, Gene, and Doug for the background of the project and why we are tasked with doing this overtopping protection. So just to start off, we'll give an overview of the project area, and then we'll go into some more technical stuff, which I'll try and keep succinct just for time. For the more technical aspects of things and stuff that's more relevant to the community, I'll try to go a little more in depth on. But if there's any particular questions, feel free to type those in the chat. We can go into more detail as necessary at the end. So if we look at the map here, we can see the different cells within the stormwater facility. Here. In terms of this project, we're going to stick to the areas in green through here. That'll be the total work area for the entire project. Work will be done mostly within the red area here, which is where we're going to apply the overtopping protections, which we'll discuss shortly. We'll be accessing off of Dennis Ave, so that's where a lot of the trucks will be going in and out. And it's all going to be on county property, so there shouldn't be any need for easements or anything like that. There we go. So a little more detailed layout of what we're proposing to do here. We are proposing to raise the embankment slightly to meet the capacity freeboard requirements associated with that big storm. So that's just minor, adding a couple inches to the top of the embankment, smoothing it out, and then minor clearing along the bottom here for the installation of the articulated concrete blocks, or ACBs, which we're going to go into in a second. And then as part of that, the tow drains, which serve to collect any water that may be seeping through the embankment itself. This is separate from the drains, which will be installed during the overtopping protections, just to make that clear. During an inspection, we did notice that there was some damage. So while we're disturbing the area, we're just going to replace the damaged portion before throwing the ACBs over top. So this is what we're proposing for the overtopping protection measures. This is articulated concrete blocks, which we're going to be calling ACBs, just for clarity for later on. So what these are concrete blocks that are tied together with cables, and they interlock, as you can see down here, similar to how bricks are. And then they're cable tied, and then they're anchored. So they're pretty stable through that. As you see up here, this is where the existing ground would be, and then there's a layer to separate the stone, and these are going to be stabilized in these cellular kind of honeycomb kind of compartments. That'll provide some structural integrity and also assist with drainage. And there's some other design aspects to why we include this layer in terms of the shears and velocities, which we'll get into later. Then another layer to separate, and then your ACBs, which will be, in our case, open celled just like this. So they'll have some open areas that we'll be able to throw some topsoil in there and then seed it. So there'll be grass growing through, so it won't look nearly as unsightly. So during construction, this is likely what you're going to be able to see, mostly towards the end of construction. As you can see, there's the dirt, the gravel layer, and then it's going to be trucked in on 18-wheelers in these mats, and then cranes will have to come in and they'll lift these mats right up and place them in. So installation of these should be pretty quick once the gravel layer is put in place. So shouldn't be too much extended period of time for the noise associated with that. So just for some background on kind of the flows that we're going to be experiencing over top of the embankment. As you can see, this is a section of the embankment as we would see it, as if the pond was on the left, and then the slope which we're protecting would be in here, and then the stream or the houses would be down here. So just a quick synopsis on the difference between subcritical and supercritical flow. I'm sure you've all seen in a stream where the water is flowing kind of deep and slow, and then it hits a rock or something similar, and then it hits that surface, then it goes really shallow and really fast, almost like rapids. And then, so you can see it goes that is slow and deep, hits the surface, gets narrow and fast, and then as you see, like in rocks and streams, it hits the bottom there, and it does almost like a swirl, and that's it transitioning back, the turbulent flow, and a lot of times that's a hydraulic jump, for terminology for future slides. So what we are concerned with in our cases is this area here where it's supercritical flow, because the higher velocities mean there's more energy and it has higher shears, which we'll get into later. Basically, this area is more susceptible to becoming, I guess this is the highest point of our stresses that we care about in terms of protecting. So this is what we are seeing in our case exactly for Wheaton. So our normal pool elevation is down here at 302, which is pretty low. I believe that's cell 2, if I recall. And then we have an abbreviated section through here. As you can see, the 100-year water surface elevation, WSE is water surface elevation. So during the 100-year storm, which is not exactly once every 100 years, it just means that on any given year, there's a 1% chance of that storm happening. And under the current layout, we're talking an elevation of 311, so 6 feet difference off of here. So it's 9 feet from the permanent pool. And then under proposed conditions, our spillway crest is 315, So we're not experiencing any overtopping. It's all going through the riser structure and the box culverts that are through the spillway. But for the PMF event that Gene had touched on earlier, this would be what the flow would look like going through here. And as I just discussed, this is where it goes low and or deep and slow. You see it transitions and gets the shallow and fast, and then it hits the bottom here where it kind of ponds up and hits the hydraulic jump. Now we do meet our freeboard requirements, which is just the difference between the water and the top of the rest of the dam itself, not the spillway crust. We're required to get 1 feet, and we're getting 1.35 through that. So if we go to the next slide, under proposed conditions, this is what we were hoping to get through this. Our normal pool hasn't changed. Our 100-year for references here. The swim facility is here, and this is the same profile, but now we're adding the articulated concrete block system with the gravel layer, and there is going to be an under drain here, which is part of a safety feature of the articulated concrete blocks to provide, in case there is some seepage through here, it'll collect that and provide some relief as just another a safety measure for this system. And we are proposing an access road on the top that is more structural, so that way maintenance vehicles can go through there and not damage the spillway itself for the crust of the embankment. And this is the exact same thing, except for now we see the riser and the head wall. So the only real thing I want to point out here is that we are going to have to tie into the head wall, which we'll be able to do that by just tapping into the head wall and then getting some rebar, and then the cables that the concrete blocks are held together with, we'll be able to loop those in for concrete and just connect it to the head wall for a safe connection. So there's not going to be any erosion along the outside of the head wall and causing potential failures there. So this is a profile as if you're standing inside the facility and you're looking downstream, and these are those principal spillway pipes. We have the embankment here. The normal pool is way down here. Notice again the difference between the 100-year, which is not overtopping, and then the PMF, which is, but we still provide that freeboard. And then our concrete blocks are going up the slope, so we are providing full protection for the entire flow area. And then once again, we are providing a little bit of material to raise the embankment and provide a consistent flat elevation. And just for reference, it is about 500 feet is the bottom width from here to here. So it's fairly large, as you guys are well aware. So it's passing quite a bit of water. A little more technical stuff. I'll try and be succinct through all of this once again. So what we care about are the erosive forces along that slope during that supercritical flow, when all the peak shears and velocities, they're the highest. So we're designing for a shear of 13, and that's pounds per square foot, if anybody's curious, and the velocity is 25 feet per second. So velocity is just how fast it's moving, and the shear is basically the force. It's like a torque force that would kind of, if you think about it, it's the force that would cause a rock to flip over. So what we have existing is actually a little bit of gabions at the top, but then turf for the rest. So as you can see, you're talking 1 to 10, and our design is 13 and 17, but that's for higher end systems, and it would be for the entire system. This is only provided at the top, and 3.5, which is very much lower than our 25 we care about. So what we're proposing to the ACB system is more than adequate to provide the shear and velocity requirements. Now, the reason that these are pluses is because these were tested in labs out in Colorado, standardized testing at Colorado State University, and they had not received any sort of failure mechanisms when they were testing it. So it's very much capable of handling anything we throw at it. And these systems are very well tested. They've been proven through many applications, and they're widely accepted by the Army Corps of Engineers in FEMA. So by providing, we're talking 30 plus for 25 and 15 plus, I guess, for 25, but that just provides an additional factor of safety, because we want to over design this, even though the PMF is really an over design anyway. We just wanted to provide a factor of safety and just over design it, and provide any sort of buffer, because you never want it to fail, but you never want it to fail, period. But if you're going to design something, you don't want to design it for exactly that event. You want to over design it. So if you think of bridges, they're not going to propose a 10,000-pound bridge and have it fail at exactly 10,001. There's some other factors that they have to consider, and that they're going to over design it, which is exactly what we have done here. We provided to a factor of safety that's double what is required under the PMF conditions, which are way higher than is really practical in any sense. So the designs have been reviewed and permitting pretty extensively. We've worked closely with MDE, Dam Safety Division. So we've had meetings, we've had conference calls, we've had correspondence with them back and forth. They have thoroughly reviewed all of the design and all of our computations through all of this. And we've reached, as of right now, a pretty good agreement with them about the design. Is currently under review for permitting for Montgomery County for erosion and sediment control measures during construction. So that way, when they dig up the dirt to put in the gravel, there's not going to be any sediment that's going to be entering downstream. And there were quite a bit of geotechnical analyses performed, which I'm sure you were all aware, seeing the drill rigs on the embankment for those that stopped by while we were drilling. Now these were used, the data from these was used to help with slope stability analyses, which basically models how the embankment's going to perform under these conditions, both existing and proposed. And it just confirms that the structural integrity of the dam and the design are sufficient under the PMF condition. So there's plenty of hands that have been involved in this to share their expertise. So a little more involved with what we're proposing exactly. Like we said before, we're going to stabilize the slope with articulated concrete blocks, which is going to start out, like we said, with excavation, throwing in that the gravel layer, and then throwing in the blocks on top of that. As you can kind of see the different stages involved on the picture on the right here. And then shortly after construction, it'll start to fill in with grass, as you can see in the after picture below. As we also mentioned, there's going to be approximately 20 feet of damaged tow drain, which was discovered at the last inspection, that will be replaced, as well as some minor grading along the top of the embankment to meet the freeboard requirements that we were talking about. And there's going to be some minor clearance of brush along the embankment, along the bottom, just to get clearance to install these measures. So within a couple weeks, it should look like this. Hopefully, grass is very well established within the first couple weeks. As you can see in this picture, this was actually during construction, so this is still disturbed, but this is starting to establish here. So once this fills in even more, you're going to be able to see even less of the concrete and even more of the grass. So it shouldn't shouldn't be staring at a concrete wall as many people think that you would be with such a concrete intense design. As I said, there is going to be an access road along the crest of the embankment. That's similar to the gravel layer, where it's the subsoil, and then there's these structural cells, which they are rated for heavy equipment. So there's no chance of it really breaking under the loads that were going to be applied. But it's also going to be filled in with topsoil and seeded grass, so you're not going to be able to see it. But it also provides passage in case there's any maintenance that needs to be performed. But it's also, you can mow it under your standard maintenance procedures. And here's a picture of what was discovered at the last inspection of the tow drain. So they actually sent a camera up the pipe and found about 40 feet from the head wall. As you can see, there's plenty of debris, and the top of the pipe has become damaged. So while we're tearing up the portion of the embankment, and before we cover it, and which would be very hard to access once we cover it, we're just going to dig out the pipe and replace it before we install the gravel layer of the ACBs and then the ACBs themselves. So I believe Doug is going to pick up now with the anticipated timeline of the construction itself.
Yeah, thanks, Ethan. Get my screen up here. Okay, yeah, that was great. And again, if you guys have questions, please enter them into the chat, and we'll go over those in a few minutes here. But as of for the construction schedule, at this point, we're anticipating to start construction in September of 2022. And then we expect that it'll take 16 weeks to complete all the construction. So probably in the neighborhood of, early to mid-January of 2023, it should be completed. And then the sequence of construction, which Ethan kind of alluded to, is, initially we're going to be installing the sediment erosion control measures, like you see here in the picture. And then the tow drain repair, the excavation for the tow drain repair will happen, and that section of pipe will be replaced. And then the articulated concrete block mattresses or mats and the access road itself would be installed. And then all disturbed areas would be seeded and stabilized at the end. So some of the impacts you can expect, the equipment, that will definitely be on the dam, or include an excavator, to excavate out the area on the down slope side of the dam to prepare it for the articulated concrete blocks. And then there'll be a crane, which is actually used to lower, move and put in place the concrete mats, and trucks of various sizes. And the construction work hours are 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. on weekdays only. But you can expect some noise during those hours from the power tools and the truck traffic and dumping of stone and excavation and other activities. So with that, we'd like to go ahead and open it up for questions. I know that I saw some come in on the chat. Christy, if you don't mind, maybe reading some of those.
Sure. Yeah, I was trying to organize them a little bit. There's some really great questions that came in on the chat, and thank you all for adding those in as you went along, so that we could make sure to get to all of them tonight. So I'll start with what I hope is a really quick one. Ethan, I'll give this one to you, but one of the questions is what is a head wall and where is that located?
Sure. So if we,
You want me to
sorry,
do,
screen
I don't know
share.
if we have any pictures of it actually, do we?
Yeah, we should. Let's try and see what
Right
spot
here.
it has.
This one has it in, or or do you want the aerial? The
This is good.
yeah.
So if you look at the, I guess I'll screen here.
Here,
So you
I
see the
can-
riser. You see the riser in the bottom, and then you see that kind of U shape right above it. So the box culverts, which will act as a principal spillway, the water will go into the riser, through the principal spillway, and then out into the channel. And so the head wall is actually just that U-shaped, or I guess J-shaped, yep, that he's pointing at, and that's just a concrete wall that provides, I guess, some clearance. And it holds the dirt back so that way the water can flow freely.
And you'll see those around a lot of our storm drain outfalls. Anywhere there's a pipe that outflows into a stream, you'll see kind of concrete wings that come out the side of the pipe outfall area. If you take a look at some ones you may be passing by one day along the street. But
Yeah,
they can be very, very large or very, very small.
Yeah, and this is kind of a weird geometry. Usually they're just a flat or like a winged section. So yeah.
Okay, and if you have any follow-up questions, you know, if we didn't quite fully answer your question, feel free to add a follow-up question in the chat.
Can we
But
just
there were a
talk?
couple.
Can we just
There-
talk? Because it's not easy to have follow-up questions when we're putting them at the bottom of the chat.
You had a follow-up question about the head wall?
Yeah, are they going to be tearing that down and repairing it, replacing it? What's the plan?
So there's no current plan to replace it. There are going to be some, so I guess minor modifications just to link the ACV system to it on the upstream end. But currently, under this project, no, we are not proposing to do anything structurally with that.
Thank you.
Okay, there were a couple, I think, really important questions that came in relating to overall safety of the work that we're doing and safety of the project itself. So one of the good questions I thought was really about the whole big picture of this project is overtopping safe, if that's one of the largest causes for failure along pond dam embankments. Should we be focusing our efforts on an overtopping project? And I don't know, Jean, do you want to take that one?
Okay, well, I'll try. So as I mentioned in my presentation, this overflow channel is basically what will carry the probable maximum flood over the dam, while the rest of the dam is higher and will not be impacted by this overflow water. So we want to make sure that this section of the dam, this portion of the dam, will be structurally sound and protected, well protected. And that's the goal of this project. So the rest of the dam will not see any water. And we, as Ethan showed in his, I think he had a couple of slides, with freeboard to 1.3 feet. That's the distance to the protection that we're providing for the rest of the embankment that will not be protected. So I hope I answer your question, Terry. Do you have any follow-up question?
Well, I guess the one of you said that overtopping seems to be the biggest cause of failure. So if this
Yes.
is the most important part of the dam,
Yes.
that you want the best structure to keep the dam from, breaching or whatever, then is overtopping what you want to use.
You're exactly right. And part of this, assignment, the part of this work by designers was to evaluate different alternatives for overtopping protection. And we came up with this articulated concrete block for their performance because, this had been tested in Colorado State University, actually in the flume, where they placed these blocks and ran some very high flow over at different slopes, and they provide these blocks provided the greatest degree of protection of all the options. That's why we selected. This is basically a Cadillac design because this is high hazard dam. You're exactly right. We are concerned about overtopping. That's why that's the whole purpose for this project is to protect.
Gene,
Yes.
I just have one thing to add on to that. Hi, my name is Chris Stepp. I'm the project manager for Bayland. I think that was a great question. The reason why we're looking at the overtopping protection for this is because the amount of water we're designing this to protect is not, we're not able to retain that water within the facility. It's just so much water that we have to provide a safe mechanism for it to exit the facility. The riser structure, which is the primary way that water exits the facility, is not able to handle this amount of water. So this is really just a safety mechanism so that in the off chance that we do have that PMF or probable maximum flood, that the dam is safe. It will not have any, we're lowering the probability of a catastrophic failure because it is a high hazard dam, and there are residential units directly downstream of the facility. So that is the reason why it is being designed as an overtopping, and we're not looking at other alternatives because it's just not feasible to build a dam structure to contain that amount of water.
Thank you.
And yeah, I can just add that there's other ponds around the county that are designed with emergency spillways. So if you get a high intensity rain event, a bunch of rain all at once, like Chris was saying, it can't all go down the riser control structure, so that we have to safely design an alternative way for a very intense storm like that for the water to leave the pond area. And that's somewhat common on other ponds as well. It's a great question. So there was another really good question about safety that a couple of people asked regarding what is the impact of having heavy equipment from a construction project driving over top of the dam, and does that affect the structural integrity of the dam? So I don't know if Gene or Ethan or Chris. Gene.
I can start, I guess. The dams are constructed using heavy compaction equipment, and we like them to be well compacted. So we are not worried about having heavy equipment on top of the dam. We will make sure that if there will be any settlement as a result, we'll add soil to the top to make sure that we meet those design elevations. But the heavy equipment is not a problem for the dam of this type. That's how the dams are constructed.
There's certain compaction rates that you have to have for the material in your dam embankment already. It's regulated by the state. So it's a very defined parameters for what goes into that dam embankment, right, Gene?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, there were a couple of questions about some of the details about the articulated concrete blocks. One of them was about the concrete going into the concrete being used in them, and what qualifications are there for the concrete that's being used in it? Who would like that one? Ethan?
Yeah, that's fine. So there's a couple parts to that, right? So I guess if we want to go to slide 12, I believe.
This one, is this the one you want, Ethan?
I think it's the one after that. Yeah. So that was a couple parts, see if I remember. And I also saw a question about what's the black stuff, so I guess I'll answer that one
Right.
first. I want to go back a slide. There we go. So the black roll that's separating the brown from the other black, that's just a geotextile layer, basically a filter fabric that's going to provide some separation between the dirt and the rock. And then the black cells themselves, I saw a question about the material. Those are going to be made of plastic, high density polyethylene, I believe. And that'll be also structurally rated just like the access road. And then there's a hardware cloth mesh layer above that before you get to the concrete. And we chose concrete because it's been tested thoroughly. And there was the table on one of these where I went over the different design parameters, and none of the other options really provided the adequate resistance to the forces that we're going to be seeing through this PMF event, and definitely not with the degree of safety that we're requiring through this design. So we did perform an alternative analysis earlier on in the design process, where we looked at like a more structural astroturf, or even providing gabions, which were the better of the options, but did not provide adequate protections. So ultimately, through conversations with the county and the MDE Dam Safety, we came to the consensus that the articulated concrete blocks were the method of choice for handling the parameters associated with the design event.
And I just want to add on, that is much higher quality concrete than you would create a typical sidewalk out of. So it's a very, very high PSI concrete. So there's no, like there would be no cracking or flaking of it. So if that's your concern, it's much, much better concrete.
Yeah, this is structural grade concrete. It's not your sack concrete you get at Home Depot.
Yeah, and I understand the comment about the county sidewalk concrete. They have had some challenges recently with that particular concrete, which is a different specification. Certainly they're having impact from the salt treatment in the winter for sure on county sidewalks, which is a different issue.
I think the question is, did you bid with a concrete company? Because the tie-in with the sidewalks is the county bid with the low bidder, and we got concrete sidewalks that are basically junk. And we want to make sure that the concrete that you're using in this project was not low bid, so that it's really not good concrete. That's the question.
Yeah, no, the blocks themselves, we have specifications, and there's really only 2 manufacturers that make these products. So those products meet these design specifications. So it's a much, much better quality than you would get with any type of sidewalk concrete. The contractor that's going to be installing these, they're just going to buy them from the manufacturer, and they're just responsible for laying them in place. So they're coming directly from the manufacturer, where they have strict quality controls.
Great, thank you. That's what we're looking for.
Great, thanks. There were a couple of questions about the schedule. Doug, I don't know if you want to go over the difference between the schedule on the 2 different projects that are going to be occurring out at the pond there. And then also there was a question about the start date in September and concerns about weather in general at that time of year.
Yeah, the flood mitigation project, which is the other project that's planned for this pond, has been put a couple of years back because of funding. We were hoping to get some federal funding through grants for that project, and that grant funds did not come through. So we are reapplying for those. Actually, we're in the process of reapplying right now. How that pans out is unclear right now. There's some issues that we have to deal with to even get an application completed. So that project is several years away, and obviously the overtopping project is going to happen a lot sooner. They won't overlap. The overtopping project will be done, and well, it'll probably be underway next year at this time, and be completed by early to mid January of 2023. So I think those are the only two projects that could be referring to.
My question was about the start date in September.
Uh-huh.
We have some pretty significant rainstorms in September here. We've had Hurricane Isabel in September. And in the past few years, there have been numerous storms that have dumped high levels of rain in short periods of time in September. So my question is, when you start in September, what does that do to the dam? And a follow-up to that is when it was talked about that the grass would grow within a month. If we start in September and it ends in January, we have 4 months of looking at concrete because there's going to be no grass growing during the winter months.
They'll
So
use
who's responsible for coming back in the spring and doing the planting to get that project so it doesn't look like concrete?
That's a really good question. There will probably be some temporary winter rye or something like that put down to get some germination, right from the get-go, even if it is in the winter. But that's a very good question. The permanent, we're probably going to be putting in more of a meadow mix than turf grass. It'll probably be a sort of a hardy meadow mix of seed, and a lot of that won't germinate. Like you said, it may take a year for some of it to germinate. Some of it has to be actually in the ground over the course of a winter, and it go through that freeze-thaw process before it germinates. But your point is well taken, and if we were to be completed in January, there are some stabilization seeding that we can put down to get some growth.
And what about your start date in September still during hurricane season?
Yeah, that too is it seems to me to be a legitimate concern.
Let me respond to that, Doug.
Okay.
I think what you saw in the schedule is projected schedule. Is not cast in stone, and we anticipate getting all the permits by that time and then have the project ready for construction. Now, we are not certain that that will be the day, September, and you're absolutely right. September is the worst month as far as hurricane season for this area. But if we started in September, let's say the first, based on construction sequence, you will see as Doug has this slide, we will be installing sediment and erosion control measures, and then do some mobilization and preparation work. Will take some time. So there's a good chance that the actual excavation and construction, heavy construction, will not begin until October and November timeframe. So this is just the projected schedule, and we will keep the residents informed about any changes to the schedule, and that information will be posted to the website.
Thank you so much. As house number 2 on the map, we have a vested interest in what happens to the dam.
Absolutely.
That would be the map, this one?
Yes, number 2.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And you're Terry? Terry Meehan?
Terry and Peg, we both live at 1709 Woodman Avenue.
Okay, nice to meet you, Terry.
Nice to meet you too.
And like Gene said, you can always check the web page. I try to keep that up to date as possible on any changes to schedule. But you can also just certainly feel free to give Gene or myself a call or an email.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, Doug and Jean will still be around during, hopefully during the construction as well. We always have contacts during construction, which is really helpful.
And I'm sorry, go ahead, Christy. I thought you were done.
There's a few more questions I wanted to try and get to. Did you have something as a follow-up to that?
No, but there was one, about what it would look like afterwards.
Yes,
so we had the
exactly.
one. I'm going to post a link here to a photo. We've used these on several projects successfully. So I posted a link to a photo where we use this on a emergency spillway, which is comparable to this. It's just not as large. So if you click on that, you'll see what the ACB looks like after it's been installed, and this project has been so that's been in for a few years, so you can see you can barely see the concrete, just to allay any concerns. And that was one of our.
Is that a spillway, Chris?
That's an emergency spillway. It's a much smaller facility than this, but it is still at a emergency spillway. So I'm just standing on the crest of the spillway, and that goes down into the woods. And that was one of our major concerns here going forward, because this is a high visibility dam. It's very tall. We wanted something that would be aesthetically pleasing in the long run for the community.
And speaking of the website, we can probably, Doug, right, post maybe a photo or two of an example articulated concrete block site on the project website as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, Chris, if you don't mind shooting that over to us, we'll put that up on the webpage.
Yeah, sure. I'll send it over right now.
Great.
There were a couple other quick questions. I think we can get through them all if you all have a few more minutes here. There was a question at the very beginning I don't want to miss, and I think this is a good one for Jean, about how DEP handles graffiti on riser structures. I know this is something that's come up in the past, a number of our pond sites. Is that something you can address real quickly?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. There was a question, one of the very first questions that came in was about graffiti and whose responsibility is that at this dam?
We probably get graffiti on the riser structure, I would imagine. Jean,
The riser structure.
Yeah, it's for some reason this structure is very attractive to those people, and we've tried in the past to paint over, especially what you see on exterior. There's also graffiti inside the riser, and happens. Quite often we see, the recurring, even if we try to cover it up. So it's an ongoing battle. We have no answer. We tried everything. We try to keep up with. If you see some offensive graffiti, let us know. We'll send our maintenance contractors over there and paint over. That's the only answer I can provide. Just unfortunate. the kids like this facility. They go inside and they have a party, I guess.
There was one other question about portable bathrooms. Yes, our contractor provides one of those at all of our construction sites, so they will be having one of those at the construction site. It's a
staging
requirement.
area, right?
Yeah, within the limit of disturbance, that green line that Ethan had up on the map earlier. There was a question also earlier about what, Ethan, I think it was for one of your slides, you mentioned some minor clearing at the bottom. Maybe, I guess that was some minor clearing at the bottom of the dam embankment. Is that right? I think, Terry, that was your question.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's, so you have the tree line, I guess, if you want to go to slide 11. I believe that shows it the best. The zoomed in area. I guess it's 2 after that.
This one doesn't show it?
That's one right there. Oh, might be a lag. So yeah, the green line there at the top is showing the proposed tree line. It kind of follows the property line at the towards the stream part, and you can see the existing brush line. So it's only a couple feet, and that only extends up, I guess, not too much further to the left. But I'd say it's maybe 5 feet. And being at the site, I mean, that was almost all brush. I believe in this section there's no trees proposed to be removed. It's just brush clearing.
So that's mainly standard maintenance effort that would be required at all of our dams, right? There's a few other questions that came in near the end. There was one question, excuse me, about trying to reduce impacts on wildlife or vegetation at the entrance, I guess the construction access area, and that's something that will get, revegetated once we're done with our construction. But Doug, I don't know if you want to try that, or if there's any more information on wildlife, specific wildlife concerns.
That concern would be at the construction entrance. Is that how it
Yeah, I believe
reads?
No, I think it's anywhere.
I
Anywhere?
think this was from Gonzalo.
I mean, I'm not quite sure what kind of wildlife it is that is it birds or deer or deer?
Birds, turtles, deer, fox. I mean, this is a pretty heavily populated wildlife area.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, the area that we're going to be working in is obviously going to be disturbed. There's not going to be too much that we can do, in terms of. I mean, they'll probably leave the area on their own just when the construction and disturbance starts. There won't be any disturbance on the pond side, so any aquatic life won't be affected. But anything within this green line here, which is our limits of disturbance, can be disturbed. If there's a specific concern that you're aware of, we'd like to know about it, and if there's something we can do ahead of time to, get the animals out of there one way or another, trapping them and replace, moving them somewhere else, maybe that's a possibility, but I'm not sure. It's just off the top of my head what wildlife. The foxes, I could see there might be some foxes down around the edge of the woods, on the sort of the northern end. in that brush that will be removed down through there.
I think from my perspective, I think it's just important that whatever we are taking out of that area needs to be replaced with something similar. And that might speak to what we are putting on the side of the dam when it's replanted.
Mm.
I mean, we're talking a lot about bees and their habitat. All of
Yeah.
that whole hill grows wild right now.
Yes, that's why I would like to use a meadow mix on that and not turf.
Right. So
That's exactly why.
you know, whatever you're taking out to bring your construction vehicles in needs to be replaced with something that's going to enhance the wildlife as opposed to decimate the food source.
Yeah, no, I understand. And if there are any, that's something we should be looking at. We will look at. We'll look at any, what type of shrub, material is going to be removed on that lower portion of the, down in here, in this area, this right along this edge of the limits of disturbance, the green line. There's a lot of low shrub stuff there, which is good habitat. You're absolutely right.
I just want to jump in real quick. That area that's grown in down at the toe needs to be cleared to conform with Maryland dam safety law. So the law currently is that anything from the toe within 15 foot of the toe needs to be cleared and only have vegetation, no woody material. So that is a law, and the county has to abide by those rules and regulations. So that area, that's one of the reasons why we're clearing that area, but the other reason is obviously for installation of the ACB overtopping protection. So unfortunately, we can't replant that area, but I'm sure the county might want to offer up some other areas that could be replanted in kind. That's something that could be worked into either this project or the other project, some environmental uplift. I'm sure that stuff is on their radar.
Right. I mean, you can replant, you just replant with native vegetation.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It'll be replanted. We're going to replant it with vegetation. And like Doug had said, we're proposing to use a meadow mix on top of the dam. But we can't replant the woody vegetation. So no woodies, no shrubs, things like that, no trees.
That's absolutely right. And forgive me that was an oversight on my part. Yeah, that's a big no around dams, Peg. You can't put any kind, there can't be any woody vegetation, and that's for obvious reasons, because of their root systems extend into the dam and can actually be a point of compromise, if water finds its way along the roots. And
no, I get it. I'm not asking for the woody stuff. I'm asking for whatever vegetation is taken out of there gets put back in and gets put in with something that goes with the habitat. If we're going to use a different mix of something that's from somewhere else, I mean, we should be trying to replace things in this area with native plants.
Oh no, it's native. It's native. What we use Ernst seed mixes. So I don't know how familiar you are with seed mixes. Ernst is a local company.
Okay.
Do you know of them? They're
I don't.
Okay. No. They're very, very popular. They do all types of native seed mixes. They have plenty of mixes. They're based in southern Pennsylvania. And they make seed mixes for the whole East Coast. So we use their seed mixes a lot. They provide a variety of different mixes for different scenarios. So like Doug was saying, a meadow mix, and I could pull the mix for you if you.
Okay. No, it's fine. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, there were just a few other questions. There was one about the tow drain. I don't know if we want to just briefly explain what there's a comment that 20 feet of damaged tow drain is significant. Did we want to just briefly explain what the purpose of the tow drain is? And that's kind of a separate effort than what's happening with the overdrain protection.
Yeah, Ethan did mention that in his presentation, but the tow drain basically is just collecting any water that seeps through the dam, and it provides a place where that water can be collected and safely passed through the dam rather than it just continues seeping through. So the tow drain is important to, the safety of the dam. That's the purpose of it, and there was a picture of the damage. It's a corrugated metal pipe, and here's the picture of it here that shows the damage. If the pipe were to collapse and and not allow water to pass through, then there could be a safety issue. So it needs to be replaced. Does that answer it, Christy?
Yeah, you can see the damage there on the top of the pipe where it was punctured, probably by an exploratory boring. And that sort of silver stuff that you're seeing in the bottom of the pipe, that's actually gravel that's fallen in through the hole. So that's why that is needing to be replaced. We're going to replace it in kind with a CMP pipe and just restore it to original conditions.
And the tow drain is like many other pipes around the county, which eventually need maintenance and repair. We have another tow drain project at another large pond in the county that's in the process of having some maintenance work done on it as well. So it's a maintenance effort.
Yeah, I just want to add, this pipe is deep inside, located deep inside the embankment. And the only way we could see that is using closed circuit TV camera that was done, part of our inspection. And that's when we discovered this hole at the top. We could never detect this otherwise. And since this area will be covered by articulated concrete blocks, we will never be able to get to it. So we decided that we need to fix this area, and MDE agreed before installing overtopping protection. So that's why we're doing this.
I don't know if did you all see the very last question that popped up about the 15-foot restriction on woody debris at the toe of the dam embankment and whether that extends onto other properties? Do we know if that extends off the?
No, it stays on the current parcel. It is extending close to the property line, and the reason why is we are putting there is a drainage swale at the bottom of the embankment. So we are lining that with ACBs as well, and that's part of our modeling we did, shows that those shears and velocities down there were in excess of what we would like to see for a grass swale. So on the safe side, you don't want any points of failure at your toe of your embankment. So that is the reason why we are also lining that bottom area too. That was very observant.
And what's shown on the slide is the 15 foot. So it doesn't extend beyond that. If you're wondering if you were a private owner and then you were responsible for clearing, what's shown as a green line there is the 15-foot limit. So it's all county owned.
This line here, Ethan?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So anything beyond that is okay. I believe the person that put this in might be on this side. Is any of this? There's not a lot of woody. I guess there's a tree here. But is that property line, would that 15-foot zone
I'd
extend?
have to double check, but I'm
Yeah, okay.
fairly sure that that it would be. It all depends on where we take the tow as. I can get back to you if we need to.
Okay, well, I think I tried to get to all of the questions. If I,
Christy, there's one more from
Okay.
Vince Morelli, if you scroll back, about the dredging of pond cell 1.
the schedule for the second pond
Oh.
project later on.
Yeah, that's part of the flood mitigation project. Yes, this whole cell 1 was going to get dredged as part of the flood mitigation project, which is happening all up through here. And yeah, that will not happen with this overtopping project. That's a completely separate project.
And that schedule you'll be getting back to everyone on once it's confirmed a little closer to then. But it's
For the flood mitigation.
right.
Yes, yeah, that has its own web page as well. So that's something that folks can look at and check into, and again, check with either Gene or myself too, for updates on that.
Okay, well, Doug is available for any questions that you all have. His email's on the project website, and I'm sure you all have it in the mail for any other questions that you all think of afterwards. But thank you all for joining us tonight. It was really great discussion and really good questions, and we appreciate you all coming out in your evening.
Yep. Thank you all. Christy, thank you too.
Thank you.
Sure.